All right, so for this video, we're going to do a little bit of a history lesson and also touch on the genealogy that we see in our reading. So very exciting intro, I know, but don't turn off the video. I think you'll find it helpful. All right, so as we continue our way through the book of 2 Kings, I want to give this breakdown of this timeline of what is taking place. Because what we see is that in 1050 BC, King Saul, he's the first king of Israel. And so what we see under Saul and David and Solomon is that the kingdom is united for 120 years. But in 930 BC, the kingdom, it splits. And it splits into the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. Now, what I find so interesting is with both of these kingdoms is each of them have 20 rulers. Okay, in the north there's 20 kings, in the south there are 19 kings and 1 queen. So again, both have 20 rulers. Now what is really just kind of shocking and disappointing is with the northern kingdom of Israel, all 20 of these rulers are bad. Not one of them follows the Lord. The southern kingdom, it's a little bit better. Of these 20 rulers, 8 are actually good and they follow the Lord. Now you may remember in our video when we were in the book of Joshua, how we talked about how the people of Israel, as they entered the land of Canaan, they were this divine instrument of God's justice. Well, that is going to turn now, and the Israelites, so the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, are now going to experience this judgment. Because what we see is this. In 1050 BC, this is again where Saul becomes the king. So for 120 years, the kingdom is united. 930, it splits, and for a couple hundred years this northern kingdom is going, but in 722 BC the Assyrian nation comes and brings them into captivity, into exile. Now again, going back to the southern kingdom, because they did have some good kings, because at time the people did follow the Lord, they last a little bit longer. But by the time we get to 586 BC, the kingdom of Babylon has come, and in waves they have taken the people to Babylon. They've taken these people into captivity. And so by 586 BC, the city of Jerusalem is destroyed and the temple is destroyed. Now, one of the things that we are seeing throughout the book of Kings is we have to go back to that promise that God made to David all the way back in 2 Samuel chapter 7. Where he said that David's line would continue, that the Messiah would come. But this is really being put to the test because the kingdom is divided. And we even see in 2 Kings chapter 11 that this line of David is almost totally wiped out. This evil queen, Queen Athaliah, she's killing all the people connected to David's line. And one baby, one child is saved. This is amazing, God's providence, how He is working in this situation. But as we get to the end of the book of 2 Kings, it's disappointing. Again, both nations have been taken into exile, they're in captivity. But there's still this glimmer of hope. Because we come across this name, Jehoiachin, and he is from the line of David. And what the author is getting at is, as the book of 2 Kings ends, is that David's line is still intact. There is still hope that the Messiah can come through David's lineage. Now in our reading, we also move into the book of 1 Chronicles. And in our next video, we'll get into more detail about what is taking place in 1 and 2 Chronicles. But as we begin this book, it starts, and you'll notice this pretty quick, it's all these names. And you may be saying, oh boy, here we go with all these genealogies. But we need to remember this. There's two things with these genealogies. One is we need to remember the accuracy of them. So these scribes, they did a lot of hard work. They put a lot of effort and time into putting down all these names. And the reason that they did this is not so that the reading would be all this exciting and interesting, though there's some interesting points as you go through some of the different names. But the point of the scribes, and the reason that it is here, is to be accurate. And it's there to be accurate because the people, we need to remember that these books were written after the exile. And so the people may be wondering, has God given up on us? Are we still God's people? Do God's promises still apply? And so this list of names is actually there to give them hope. Because again, they may be wondering, has God given up on them? I love how one commentator, in talking about these genealogies, he says that these genealogies are there, the survey of all these names is there to give hope in the present because of the possibility of God's covenantal promises in the future. Meaning that the people are to look to the past so that they can have hope and confidence today, and they can have hope and confidence as they continue on as God's people into the future, that God is still moving and working in their midst. You know, this is a great word for us today. It just seems that we live in such a crazy time, but we, like the people of Israel, can look to the past, how God has worked in the past in our own life, how He's worked in the life of our church, how He's worked throughout the timeline of all the history that we continue to read as we journey through the Bible. And He is still moving and working today. And we can take confidence in that, in the midst of all the craziness of our world. Now, you may have been surprised that given this long list of names in this genealogy, there could be such hope. But again, that is the main reason that these genealogies are included by the author of 1 Chronicles. He wants to give the people hope, and by extension, He wants to give us hope. All right, well, enjoy the reading. I'm praying for you. May the Lord bless you.